Have you ever taken yesterday's leftovers, tossed them into the microwave, and felt good about not wasting food? You're not alone. Millions of people around the world do the same thing every day. But what if I told you that some of the most common foods in your fridge, foods that seem completely harmless, can actually become dangerous, even toxic, when reheated? Yes, doctors and food safety experts have issued serious warnings. Reheating certain foods, especially in the microwave, doesn't just affect taste or texture. It may actually alter their chemical composition. And in some cases, it may increase your risk of cancer, digestive issues, or even brain diseases like dementia. In this video, we're going to explore 5 everyday foods you should never reheat, and the shocking reasons why. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. And once you understand how these common foods behave when reheated, you'll be able to make better, safer choices for yourself and your family. Let's start with the first, and most surprising, item on our list. 1. Spinach, a silent danger. Spinach is considered a superfood, right? Packed with iron, folate, and powerful antioxidants, it's a favorite in salads, smoothies, and cooked dishes. But here's something most people don't know. When spinach is cooked and then reheated, especially in a microwave, it can produce nitrosamines, which are compounds linked to cancer. Why does this happen? Spinach contains a naturally high level of nitrates. That's not a bad thing on its own. But when nitrates are exposed to high heat a second time, like during reheating, they can transform into nitrosamines. And nitrosamines have been classified as carcinogenic by several health organizations. The danger increases if the spinach was cooked and then left at room temperature for a while before being stored. That creates the perfect conditions for bacteria to thrive and for nitrates to convert. What's worse? Many people assume reheating in the microwave kills everything. But microwave ovens often heat food unevenly, leaving parts of the dish undercooked and allowing harmful compounds or bacteria to survive. If you've ever made spinach soup, curry, or a spinach omelette and saved the leftovers for the next day, you might want to think twice before reheating it. The safer choice? Eat it cold or prepare only what you'll consume in one sitting. 2. Rice, a hidden hazard in every kitchen. Rice is a staple food in millions of homes. It's affordable, versatile, and comforting. But reheated rice has been responsible for more food poisoning cases than you might imagine. The problem isn't the rice itself, it's a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. This bacteria can survive the initial cooking process, especially in long-grain rice. Once the rice cools, the bacteria begin to multiply rapidly if left at room temperature for too long. When you reheat that rice, it may not get hot enough to kill the toxins that Bacillus cereus produces. These toxins are heat-resistant, and even a steaming bowl of reheated rice may still carry them. The result? Food poisoning. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and in some cases, severe dehydration or hospitalization. But here's where it gets even more concerning. Some studies suggest that long-term exposure to these kinds of heat-resistant bacterial toxins might contribute to gut inflammation or weakened immunity, both of which are associated with chronic illness and even neurological issues like dementia in later life. So what should you do? If you cook rice, cool it quickly, within an hour, and store it in the fridge. And when reheating, make sure it's piping hot all the way through, ideally on a stovetop rather than a microwave. Still, the best advice remains this: don't reheat rice at all unless absolutely necessary. 3. Eggs, from protein powerhouse to digestive nightmare. Eggs are a rich source of protein, vitamins, and healthy fats. Scrambled, boiled, or in omelets, they're a breakfast favorite around the world. But here's something critical. Cooked eggs should never be reheated. Why? When you expose already cooked eggs to high heat again, their protein structure changes, and not in a good way. These altered proteins become harder to digest, and in some cases, they can release toxins that cause inflammation in the stomach lining. But that's not all. If eggs are reheated improperly, especially in a microwave, they can literally explode. The internal pressure builds up rapidly, and you might end up with scalding hot yolk on your skin or in your eyes. Even worse, reheated eggs can develop compounds that increase oxidative stress in your body, a condition linked to both cancer and cognitive decline over time. One study even suggested that regular consumption of overcooked or reheated egg proteins could elevate your risk for neurodegenerative diseases in old age. What's the safest route? Only cook the amount of eggs you plan to eat. If you have leftovers, eat them cold in a salad, or toss them. Reheating is not worth the risk. 4. Potatoes, innocent looking, but dangerous when mishandled. Potatoes are a comfort food we all love, baked, mashed, fried, or boiled. They go with almost everything. But did you know that reheated potatoes can be toxic? Here's how. When cooked potatoes are left out at room temperature, Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria responsible for botulism, can begin to grow. This is especially risky when potatoes are wrapped in foil or kept in warm environments, like on a kitchen counter or inside a turned-off oven. If these conditions are met, the bacteria can multiply and produce botulinum toxin, which is one of the most dangerous toxins known to humans. Symptoms of botulism include muscle weakness, blurred vision, difficulty breathing, and in extreme cases, paralysis or death. Even if botulism doesn't occur, reheating potatoes can still be problematic. Much like with rice, potatoes that are reheated in the microwave may not reach a safe internal temperature throughout. Parts of the food may remain cool enough for bacteria to survive. There's also evidence that reheating starchy foods like potatoes can produce acrylamides, chemical compounds formed when sugars and amino acids are exposed to high heat. Acrylamides have been linked to cancer, particularly in lab studies, and there is growing concern about their effects on human health over time. Your best option. Store cooked potatoes in the fridge as soon as they cool. Reheat only once, on the stove if possible, and discard any leftovers you've already reheated once. Better yet, make only what you'll eat fresh. 5. Chicken, the most common reheated offender. Chicken is high in protein and full of flavor, but it's also the most mishandled food when it comes to reheating. When chicken is cooked and then cooled, its protein structure changes. Reheating it, especially unevenly in the microwave, can cause the proteins to become tough, rubbery, and hard to digest. But digestion isn't the only problem. Improperly reheated chicken can harbor salmonella, a dangerous bacteria that causes severe food poisoning. Even if the chicken was thoroughly cooked the first time, storing it improperly or reheating it unevenly allows bacteria to survive and grow. And here's something many people don't realize. The fats in chicken, especially in the skin or dark meat, can become oxidized when reheated. These oxidized fats produce free radicals, unstable molecules that damage your cells and increase the risk of cancer, heart disease, cognitive decline, including dementia. Doctors say that regularly eating reheated fatty meats may contribute to long-term inflammation in the body. What should you do? If you have leftover chicken, reheat it once, thoroughly, and make sure it's steaming hot all the way through. But the safest strategy is to avoid reheating it at all, especially in the microwave. You might be wondering, why does reheating cause such harm? And what exactly happens inside your body when you consume these altered foods? To answer that, we first need to understand the science behind reheating and how your body reacts to chemically changed food molecules and invisible toxins. The science behind reheating, it's not just heat, it's chemistry. When food is cooked, its proteins, fats, and carbohydrates undergo a transformation. This is perfectly normal and usually healthy. But when you reheat already cooked food, especially using high temperatures like those in microwaves or frying pans, a second transformation occurs. And this is where problems begin. Here's why. 1. Proteins break down differently. Proteins are long chains of amino acids. When cooked once, they denature, that's expected. But reheating causes further breakdown or cross-linking of proteins, making them tougher and harder for your stomach to digest. Some of these new compounds may even be inflammatory or toxic, especially when they're exposed to high heat repeatedly. 2. Fats become oxidized. Fats in meat, dairy, or even oils can become oxidized when reheated. Oxidized fats produce free radicals, unstable molecules that damage DNA, proteins, and cell membranes. Over time, repeated exposure to free radicals can trigger chronic inflammation, cell mutations, and aging-related diseases like dementia and cancer. 3. Starches turn into a playground for bacteria. Starchy foods like rice and potatoes can harbor bacteria like Bacillus cereus and Clostridium botulinum. If they're not stored properly and then reheated unevenly, the bacteria may survive, and so do the dangerous toxins they produce. 4. Nitrates turn toxic. Vegetables like spinach, beets, and celery are high in nitrates. When reheated, nitrates can turn into nitrites, and then into nitrosamines, which are known carcinogens. These changes aren't visible to the eye. The food looks normal. It smells normal. But inside, its structure has changed, and your body isn't designed to handle that on a regular basis. Gut health, the first victim. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria that regulate everything from digestion to immunity to mood. When you eat food that's chemically altered or contaminated, it can damage your gut lining or throw off the balance of good bacteria. The result? Bloating, gas, acid reflux, irregular bowel movements, increased intestinal permeability, also known as leaky gut. And a leaky gut isn't just a digestion issue. Studies have linked it to autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue, and even brain fog. So when your reheated food introduces inflammation or harmful bacteria into your gut, it's doing more than just causing stomach pain, it may be affecting your whole body. You might be wondering, why does reheating cause such harm? And what exactly happens inside your body when you consume these altered foods? To answer that, we first need to understand the science behind reheating and how your body reacts to chemically changed food molecules and invisible toxins. The science behind reheating: it's not just heat, it's chemistry. When food is cooked, its proteins, fats, and carbohydrates undergo a transformation. This is perfectly normal and usually healthy. But when you reheat already cooked food, especially using high temperatures like those in microwaves or frying pans, a second transformation occurs. And this is where problems begin. Here's why. 1. Proteins break down differently. Proteins are long chains of amino acids. When cooked once, they denature, that's expected. But reheating causes further breakdown or cross-linking of proteins, making them tougher and harder for your stomach to digest. Some of these new compounds may even be inflammatory or toxic, especially when they're exposed to high heat repeatedly. 2. Fats become oxidized. Fats in meat, dairy, or even oils can become oxidized when reheated. Oxidized fats produce free radicals, unstable molecules that damage DNA, proteins, and cell membranes. Over time, repeated exposure to free radicals can trigger chronic inflammation, cell mutations, and aging-related diseases like dementia and cancer. 3. Starches turn into a playground for bacteria. Starchy foods like rice and potatoes can harbor bacteria like Bacillus cereus and Clostridium botulinum. If they're not stored properly and then reheated unevenly, the bacteria may survive, and so do the dangerous toxins they produce. 4. Nitrates turn toxic. Vegetables like spinach, beets, and celery are high in nitrates. When reheated, nitrates can turn into nitrites, and then into nitrosamines, which are known carcinogens. These changes aren't visible to the eye. The food looks normal. It smells normal. But inside, its structure has changed, and your body isn't designed to handle that on a regular basis. Gut health, the first victim. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria that regulate everything from digestion to immunity to mood. When you eat food that's chemically altered or contaminated, it can damage your gut lining or throw off the balance of good bacteria. The result? Bloating, gas, acid reflux, irregular bowel movements, increased intestinal permeability, also known as leaky gut. And a leaky gut isn't just a digestion issue. Studies have linked it to autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue, and even brain fog. So when your reheated food introduces inflammation or harmful bacteria into your gut, it's doing more than just causing stomach pain, it may be affecting your whole body. Microwave, the most misused appliance in your kitchen. Let's talk about the microwave. Yes, it's fast. Yes, it's convenient. But it's also the most dangerous way to reheat food if you don't know how to use it properly. Here's why. 1. Uneven heating. Microwaves heat food from the outside in, and unevenly. That means the core of your meal might still be cool, an ideal place for bacteria to survive. 2. Plastics leach chemicals. If you microwave food in plastic containers, you might be releasing BPA, phthalates, and other chemicals into your food, many of which are hormone disruptors. 3. Hotspots may mutate food proteins. In high heat pockets, proteins and fats can denature rapidly and create damaging molecular changes, some of which may be toxic when consumed frequently. If you absolutely must use a microwave, here are some tips. Use glass or ceramic containers only. Stir food halfway through to heat evenly. Avoid reheating food more than once. Keep the power on medium or low to avoid protein damage. But again, the safest choice is not to reheat these high-risk foods at all. What should you do instead? Here are a few safe alternatives to protect your health. Cook in smaller portions. Don't make extra if you know you won't eat it fresh. Store leftovers immediately. Don't leave cooked food out for more than an hour. Label and date your leftovers. Eat within 24 to 48 hours max. Use the stovetop. It heats more evenly than a microwave and allows better temperature control. Avoid reheating certain foods altogether. Eat them cold in salads or sandwiches if you must. And most importantly, listen to your body. If you consistently feel bloated, sluggish, or sick after eating reheated meals, that's your body's way of telling you something's wrong. Now, in this last section, let's explore the real-life impact, the best practices for food safety, and answer one critical question. Is meal prepping actually safe, or are you unknowingly putting your health at risk? Real-life cases that highlight the risks. Let's begin with a few real stories that emphasize how serious this issue really is. One case reported in a medical journal involved a 20-year-old college student who reheated chicken pasta he had cooked 5 days earlier. He felt slightly off after eating it but thought nothing of it. Within hours, he began experiencing severe stomach cramps, vomiting, and high fever. By the time he reached the hospital, he was in septic shock due to Bacillus cereus contamination. Unfortunately, he didn't survive. Doctors traced the cause to improperly stored and reheated chicken pasta. In another incident, a family in Europe fell violently ill after reheating potato stew left in a pot at room temperature overnight. Botulinum toxin had developed in the stew, which had been covered but not refrigerated. The parents recovered after hospitalization, but their young child suffered permanent nerve damage. While these are extreme cases, they are a wake-up call. Improper storage and careless reheating aren't just minor mistakes, they can be life-threatening. What does safe meal preparation really look like? We live in a fast-paced world. Meal prepping is convenient. It saves time. It saves money. And it reduces food waste. So does that mean you should stop meal prepping altogether? Not at all. But you must follow safety guidelines if you want to protect your health. Here's what doctors and food safety experts recommend. 1. Cook and cool quickly. As soon as food is cooked, the bacteria clock starts ticking. Leaving food to cool slowly at room temperature is one of the biggest mistakes people make. Tip: cool hot food to room temperature within 2 hours, or ideally within 1 hour. And then transfer it directly to the fridge. 2. Store smartly. Always store cooked food in shallow, airtight containers. Why shallow? Because it allows the food to cool evenly and quickly, reducing the risk of bacterial growth in the center. Use labels to note the date and contents. As a rule of thumb, eat leftovers within 2 days. Avoid storing cooked food in aluminum foil or in plastic containers that are not labeled as microwave safe. They may leach harmful chemicals when reheated. 3. Reheat the right way. When it comes time to reheat, be smart. Use a stove or oven for even heating. Stir the food thoroughly so all parts reach safe temperatures. Avoid microwaving large chunks of meat or dense meals in plastic containers. And never reheat food more than once. If in doubt, throw it out. 4. Know which foods are safe to reheat. Not all foods become toxic. Some are generally safe when handled properly. Here's a list of safer foods to reheat. Steamed or stir-fried vegetables, except spinach, celery, beets. Cooked pasta, without creamy sauces. Cooked grains like quinoa or couscous. Soups and stews, if thoroughly reheated. Baked breads or tortillas. Tofu and plant-based proteins, when stored correctly. Even these foods should be cooled quickly and reheated properly, but they don't carry the same high risk as chicken, rice, or eggs. 5. Beware of the microwave trap. Microwaves aren't evil, but they require caution. The biggest issue with microwaving is uneven heating. A piece of chicken may be burning hot on the outside and barely warm inside, giving a false sense of safety. That's why it's important to always use a lid or microwave-safe cover to trap steam. Stir the food halfway through heating. Let it sit for a minute after microwaving to allow heat to distribute. Use a food thermometer if you're unsure. Safe reheating temperature is at least 75 degrees Celsius 165 degrees Fahrenheit throughout. Meal prepping versus meal poisoning, a fine line. So what about meal prepping for the week? Many people prepare meals for 3 to 5 days in advance and keep them in the fridge. That's okay if you follow the golden rules. Never prep more than 3 days' worth of meals with meat or dairy. Freeze meals you won't eat within 48 hours. Thaw frozen meals in the fridge, not on the counter. Reheat once and eat immediately, don't let food sit around after heating. Don't try to stretch a single meal across 4 or 5 days if it contains chicken, rice, or eggs. These are perishable and must be handled with care. The bigger picture: food is medicine, or poison. The bottom line is this. Your body is made from what you eat. The cells in your brain, heart, and immune system are fueled by the nutrients, or the toxins, you put into it. Food that's been reheated carelessly can harm you more than help you. If you want to protect your long-term health, here's what you should do. Eat fresh whenever possible. Reheat safely. Know which foods are high risk. Don't let convenience compromise your health. And remember, just because millions of people do something doesn't mean it's safe. The more you learn, the more power you have to make smarter, healthier choices. Closing message, final thought for you. So the next time you reach for last night's chicken, or zap a bowl of leftover rice in the microwave, ask yourself this. Is it worth the risk? You may save a few minutes today, but your future health is worth far more than that. Knowledge is power. Share this video with someone you care about, your parents, your partner, or your friends. You never know, you might just save a life. Thanks for watching, and stay wise, stay well.